Raymond and Grace Alger were a happily married couple who recently moved to West Yellowstone, Montana. Raymond bought his first home together in a lovely neighborhood with lovely people, though it was their home that seemed to be the most special of all, as their house was located on the most elevated point of the area and viewed the beauty of the Yellowstone National Park. Raymond worked as an environmental engineer at the local Yellowstone Conservation Association, and Grace left her job when the couple moved here from the city. Grace loved the new place. The view from her window was absolutely gorgeous, just miles and miles of greenery and wildlife. The couple often enjoyed their afternoons sitting out on their balcony watching exotic birds tweeting by. They spoke of the times to come when one day both of them would take their children hiking into the trails. They would sit around and watch their son or daughter play fetch with the dog and so much more. Raymond and Grace had been married for some years now, and they were looking to have a child of their own. Though after many months of trying and a miscarriage, Grace had lost a pinch of hope. But this new change was the perfect key to looking at the bright side, where the grass was not only greener on the other side, but this side too. When night would fall in West Yellowstone, the house would hum with the sounds of crickets chirping, and beautiful gusts of wind would flow from one side of the house to the other. Grace and Raymond never really felt so much at peace and bliss. They didn't regret moving out of their small apartment in the city the least bit. They had nothing left to say but that this new home of theirs was blessed. It was on a beautiful sunny morning that Grace prepared breakfast as usual. The couple had coffee together before Grace escorted Raymond to the car and bid him farewell. She would be all to herself till 8 at night, when Raymond would finally be back. The days were quiet, and Grace did nothing much than miss Raymond most of the day. She spent the mornings painting, decorating the house, and gardening. By the afternoons, she would grab herself a snack and get cozy in bed with a book to pass the time. At around 5, Grace soon fell into a sweet slumber with her book in her hands. When she woke up, the sun had set, and it was quite dark in the room. The skies were a hue of red and purple. Grace reached for the lamp, when suddenly she noticed something in the corner of the room. She was frightened by the dark presence just a few feet away from her. Grace furrowed her brows and sat up. Not able to move her gaze from this creature-like being, it stood like that of a man, its back hunched, its face hideous, and the most wicked of grins smeared across its distorted face. It stood there silently, holding what seemed to be a bucket in his hand. There was a ladle dipped inside, splashing around the liquid the bucket was filled with. Grace's heartbeat raised as she looked at this demonic creature. At one point, she started to doubt whether she was dreaming or if this were real. But Grace was soon knocked out of her delusion as soon as the creature jumped onto her bed. Grace let out a scream as it stared into her eyes, crouched right on top of her. Its heavy breath blew hot on her face, and she trembled in fear, still screaming for help. The creature dipped his ladle into the bucket and scooped something out. Grace was petrified to see the bucket filled with something red, and in it were floating red balls. The creature hissed at her as he held her jaws firmly in its filthy hands and forcefully tried to feed her this nasty concoction. "Drink, drink your fill," it cackled as it stared into her eyes. Grace kicked her feet and moved her face. "No, I won't. I'll never. Get off of me. Let me go. I'll never have this." The creature pushed the ladle to her mouth as Grace pressed her lips shut. The liquid flowed down her chin. The red balls rolled into her lap. Grace continued to scream in fear as she resisted the creature's strong grip on her face. It felt like an eternity before Grace managed to build enough strength to throw the ladle out of its hand. The creature scowled and sat up, staring at the mess Grace had made. Grace took the chance and pushed the creature down, before she herself stumbled off the bed and ran out the room. She went to the kitchen, feeling dreadful. Her head was spinning, her stomach churned as she collapsed to her knees. Grace grabbed her stomach in pain. She bent over and vomited, horrified to see a bright red fluid dripping from her lips before she fell unconscious to the floor. Raymond had called Grace before leaving the office. He was a bit suspicious, but knowing he would be home soon, he ignored that Grace didn't answer his calls. It was about 8:10 when Raymond got home and rang the bell. Anxiety started to set in when Grace didn't rush to open the door with that sweet laughter of hers like every other day. Raymond dropped his bag and opened the door with his keys. He ran down the living room yelling Grace's name, but there was no response. Raymond began to panic as he ran to the stairs to go to the bedroom, just when he caught a glimpse of the kitchen floor pooled in red. He rushed in to find Grace laying on the floor. He checked her pulse and listened for her heartbeat. She was breathing, but unconscious. Raymond immediately took her to the hospital, fearing the worst. "Mr. Alger, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you." "What is it, doctors? Tell me Grace is okay. I was devastated when I found her in this condition at home. I don't know how long she must have been in that state. She was all alone." "Mr. Alger, after running some tests on her, we came to know that your wife was expecting. Whatever incident had occurred had caused a miscarriage. You do not need to worry about your wife's health. She is better now and recovering. But I'm afraid that this trauma has affected her in many ways, mentally and physically. She may never be able to conceive again." Raymond and Grace returned home after being discharged from the hospital a day later. Grace was heartbroken to hear what the doctors informed Raymond. She told Raymond what had happened, and though Raymond didn't argue with her, she could tell that he didn't believe her. "Raymond, it was hideous. I don't know how it got in. That thing was responsible for what happened. It was something monstrous. Its face was grotesque. Its skin was parched red. It jumped onto me, Raymond. I don't know what it was trying to feed me." "Grace, you need to rest. Maybe we can talk about this later." Both husband and wife were depressed. They had been trying to conceive for many years now, and all of a sudden, to receive news that they were to have a child but to lose him or her so soon was shattering. Raymond contacted the police and had them investigate the house and the area. But they informed him that no one entered or left the house the day of the incident. Grace had been home all alone that day. The miscarriage had a severe effect on the couple's marriage, but their love kept them together. Things were quiet around the house. Grace rarely ever felt the energy to do something for herself. The flowers in the vase remained wilted for days. Raymond had been eating the same food for a week. Grace couldn't cope with the fact that she would never be able to be a mother, no matter how much she tried or desired it. Raymond, however, was wishful. He believed miracles happened and wished for his wife to return to her previous state, when she was happy and she used to keep him happy. Despite what the doctor said, they continued to try for a child, but months were going by without any good news. "Grace, how about you get ready for tonight? Let's go out on a dinner, somewhere far from here. It's time we change things up a bit." "Okay, promise me you'll be home early. I'll wear your favorite red gown tonight." It was months since the couple had gone out together to enjoy themselves. That evening, Grace prepared herself. She turned off the lights and looked out the window, expecting Raymond to arrive soon so that they could leave. A cool, refreshing breeze fluttered through her hair. When suddenly she saw a light in the distance within the trees. She looked closely, confused as to where it was coming from. There was no other houses beyond this point, only the dense woods for miles and miles. Was someone walking in the woods this late? Suddenly, the light hovered in the air. And started to come closer towards the house. Grace furrowed her brows and intently followed the light with her eyes, intrigued by what she was seeing. As the light neared her, it became so bright it was difficult for her to see. She turned her face and held out her hand. "What is this?" Her lips trembled. The white light was so bright. Grace's heart pounded fast. She couldn't take it anymore. She slowly closed her eyes before she fell to the floor. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.